So good morning, all of you. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, you
Good
can
morning,
hear.
sir.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So far, I'm sure it's been a good morning. From now on, it will not be such a good morning. Now that I'm going to start your class. Huh? So, but fortunately, these classes are short. So no problem. Are you able to see the slide? Hello? Are you able to see the slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
You're,
sir.
you're hearing me and you're able to see the slide.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's good. Okay, uh, I basically have this habit of going back to what we did in the last class and then coming to the next class, to the agenda of the day's class, because then there'll be some kind of continuity in understanding the issues that are involved in whatever chapter we are looking at. So we're looking at the first part of the first unit, which is nature, methods and significance of political thought. Yesterday we did nature of political thought, and it was uh, basically something in the nature of explaining the elements that go into political thought. So, strictly speaking, if we talk about what is political thought, the only big thing of significance is that first thing, which is rational. It is very significant because non-political thought can rely, and when we come to the medieval period, and especially when we start doing St. Augustine and St. Thomas Aquinas, we will see that they did not attach too much importance to rationality. And in fact, the Christian civilization uh, said rationality is the tool of the devil or Satan. Okay, and therefore they said anyone who is using rational thought is under the spell or influence of the devil. Okay, and so rationality was pushed behind. It was called faith versus reason. Reason and rationality can be used interchangeably. And in that, they believed that all knowledge came through faith, through revelation, and not through rational thought. But if you look at political thought, either in the Greek period or the ancient period for that matter, which also includes the Roman period, and if you look at political thought in the modern period, you will find that the first highlighting quality is rational. Political thought is rational, okay? And it is also something which is related to governance. How would you govern? Okay, so in terms of importance, governance is another very important element of political thought. And you'll understand that when we start doing Hobbes and Locke. Okay. And then the idea of development. If you look at the idea of development, you will find that development, again, like I said, not our idea of development as we see today, but the idea of development is that the state of being with a capital B, I talked about that yesterday, so I'm not going to repeat that. How can you better it? How can you make things better? Okay, so the developmental part is again a very important thing. And in political thought, legal is also very important in the modern period, not in the ancient period. Okay, most of political thought in the modern period concerns itself with legalities on how to make laws, how to implement laws, and those kind of things. Dynamic is inbuilt into it. Promotion of good life is not always necessarily a part of political thought, and neither is moral or ethics necessarily a component of political thought. In fact, if you look at John Locke and if you look at Adam Smith and a little later Thomas Malthus, you will basically find that they are amoral. Okay, they ignore the idea of morality completely. So classical political economy, classical liberalism as it is called, is based in individualism, and it is based in capitalism. And if any of you understand capitalism, which I'm sure you do, the primary driving force of capitalism, whether it is a pandaba or it is a multi-billion corporation like, say, a Google, or no, it's not Google. Google is now Alphabet Inc. Or if you look at Microsoft, what do they prioritize? What is the first and foremost thing that they look at? It is maximizing profit. So you will see that capitalism actually bred corruption, because in capitalism, your survival depends entirely on making profits. Otherwise, what is the point in doing business? If you keep losing money, then there's no point in doing business, right? And therefore, the system becomes amoral. So, a lot of people from Western countries have this unfortunate idea that countries like India see a lot of corruption, and that their own countries, by that, these countries, let me name them: the United States of America, the many countries of Europe, all of which are now getting impoverished, by the way, they are dying out in economic terms. All these countries basically look down on a country like India and say there's corruption everywhere. But they think they are corruption free, the regular people, which is not really the case. In fact, the modern form of corruption which is bribing or whatever. Those kind of things have originated in these countries in Europe and in the United States of America, which are the bastions of capitalism. Okay, and that is because everybody wants a profit motive. They want to make money. And when that becomes your primary purpose, then morality goes for a toss. That is why I have not really included that in the essential elements of political thought. Moral political thought was revived yet again by John Rawls and Michael Sandel uh, in the 1970s and 80s. That revival began, but still it is nowhere near the ethical, moral thought of people like Aristotle, Plato, who use morality and ethicality as being central to their uh, task. And good life has also changed. We talk about good life now as material comforts. Do I have a smartphone? Do I have a smart television? If I don't have a smart television, can I put an an Amazon Fire Stick in it and make it smart? And it has something to do with owning your own means of transport. So this is a very material form of good. And the promotion of good life is done by capitalism because it encourages consumption. Okay, so modern good life is based in consumption, consuming, buying things which are luxuries. Okay, the latest Honda City ad basically says, show the world that you have arrived, which means that let people know you have succeeded. That is the sense of good life as far as Honda is concerned. Okay, so those are not things that I want to include in the essential aspects of political thought. They are not essential to it, not always. They have been sometimes, they haven't been in other times. So, hopefully, you remember all the things that we talked about yesterday. So, political thought is fundamentally rational. That is what I want you to remember. Because when we go to methods of political thought, what we will be doing is discussing methods that are all based in rationality. All of them are based in rationality, especially those forms of political thought which had their origins in ancient Greece and to a very, very limited extent in ancient Rome. I'm not going to talk about India because the Indian Indian thought, I refuse to use the word political in the context of ancient and medieval India. That particular thought is based entirely in morality. It's based entirely in morality. There is rationality and individual autonomy. Otherwise, you can't have a concept like karma unless you give some autonomy to the individual. Okay, so we'll discuss that in detail anyway. But Indian philosophy either of the Sanatana Dharma variety or the Buddhist variety or whatever, is based in the idea of moral primarily, and the rational is there as a mechanism for you to understand how something is moral and how that morality can be attained and maintained. So those we will discuss when we do a comparison of the political thought of the Western variety with Indian variety, which is the second part of this first unit that we are dealing with. But for now, please remember that unless I tell you I am including Indian thought, I am not including Indian thought. And unless I tell you I am including modern thought, I'm not including modern thought. I'm talking about ancient thought. And when I say ancient, most of it, or in fact, all of it, is something which I will consider to be uh, what should I say? Which is something which I consider to come from either Greece or from Rome. So let's get into understanding the methods of political thought. Now, this is where we are presented with a problematic, Problematique. It's a French word, problematique. The Americans have made it problematic, MATIC. That's how they write it. So problematic is actually, we use, you say something when we have a problem in India, we say it's a problematic, which is grammatically completely wrong. Okay, you should say I have a problem with this, or I'm finding this to be something in the nature of a problem. The usage of problematic is in lieu of the French usage of problematique. And so what is the problematique? What does it signify? A problem, ma'am, if you say I have a problem, it could be one problem. Okay. But if you basically talk about a problematique, then you are talking about a fountainhead which throws up different problems from one source. The fountainhead is the source, but water goes in different tropes, in different trajectories, right? So you have to understand problematique as that. So when we are looking at the idea of a problematique in the usage of methods, let me tell you why it is a problematic. Now, yesterday I told you political thought as such, the usage of that expression is a very generic expression. Okay, it's anybody can think. Okay, much as we would like to believe that only we, the human species, are endowed with this special ability to think, it isn't as if it is as simple as that. Okay, because even animals can think. It has been proven. Dogs are known to think abstractly. Okay, and if you have seen programs on National Geographic, Channel or Discovery Channel. If you look at those programs which are called wild, where you see predators like the lions hunting different prey, like the wildebeest and the impala, the antelope, or the cheetah hunting the impala. If you see all those, you'll see that they are downwind. They are downwind in the sense that they are in a position where the wind is blowing into them and not over them towards their prey. It's coming from the prey towards them. Why do they do that? Because animals carry a strong odor. If you're upwind, which is where air comes from you and then goes to your prey animals, then what happens is you cannot ambush them. They basically will run away because they can smell a predator. So in order to ensure that they don't get caught out by their body odor, they go downwind and then ambush the prey. Okay, even while ambushing the prey, if there is a chase, you will very clearly see. In fact, if you see a cheetah chase an impala, a cheetah basically tries to trip the impala so that it falls. Okay, so they are all capable of intelligence. They're all capable of thought. Okay, it's not something that they're not capable of. Okay, so when we talk about methods, methods actually are more to be understood as different rational systems used specifically for understanding certain kind of problems. Okay, that is the most important thing. It is, you have to remember that, right? When we talk about methods, methods are, why are they called method? Because you have to follow a certain step, certain sequence of steps. That is called methodology. And methodology is something which is more associated with empiricism. I have put number 6 as empirical. It is associated with empiricism. It is not associated with theory. It's not associated with philosophy. And in the Greek period, it was not even associated with science. Okay? Because for the Greeks, philosophy and science were both interchangeable. Not for us. In the modern period, science is taken to be the opposite of philosophy. Philosophy is often called teapot whimsy. It is something based in suppositions and therefore it is speculative, whereas science is something that deals with facts. Okay, so you had this whole positivist movement in Europe. It was headed by Auguste Comte, the Frenchman, and you will see that these people basically are trying to tell you that history and philosophy are hindrances in attaining knowledge. Okay, history and philosophy, they say, are hindrances. But the Greeks didn't say it that way at all. Okay, so the idea of a scientific method is a modern idea. It's not an ancient idea. Okay, in the ancient world, philos was the world around you. Philosophy was understanding that particular world. And science was the same thing. So they could be used interchangeably. And that is the reason why I have not put science here. If I put science here, then I'll create a confusion in your minds. Okay? But I did put philosophic, because philosophic methods, actually, technically speaking, all that you're seeing there are all philosophical methods. Okay? But because of the way in which your curriculum is constructed, and because of the books that you read, which you are advised to read, which treats this somehow as being different from some other things, I have included it as a head in itself. Ideally, I would like to say philosophy of political thought, not methods of political thought, and then talk about all these things. Remove empirical, of course. Anyway, so there's one funny thing here in this whole system, in these 7 methods that I have mentioned. And I'm now using the method here, though the methods are ancient, they are part of philosophy. I'm still calling them methods because that is what your textbooks call them. And I don't want to give you information which, while being while being accurate, will elude those people who ultimately evaluate your papers. I don't want you to not get marks, and therefore I'm just using that word methods. Otherwise, it's a dubious thing. Now, the third method that I put, Socratic. This is the only method that is named after a person. Okay, it is named after a person, the person being Socrates. Time flies, Jesus. Already the countdown has begun. Anyway, so Socrates deserves to have a special place because Socrates was unlike any other philosopher in any part of the world. Burton Russell has a good name for him. He calls him a gadfly. Okay, a gadfly is something that is buzzing all the time and creating a nuisance. And so Bertrand Russell said that people of ancient Greece saw him as a gadfly. That's why they made him drink hemlock poison and killed him. Okay. But he was the teacher of Socrates, of Plato, and Plato owes much of his knowledge to Socrates. And therefore, Socratic method in itself is worth looking at. So that is the only method that I have put, which is named after a person. The others are all, as you can see, they are all non-personal names. I have included mathematical here because the Greeks used a lot of mathematics, okay? And their idea of mathematics was not so much numerals, numbers, because if you've seen even the Roman numerals, you will find that the Roman numerals cannot put a zero, okay? 5 is V, and if you put an I before the V, it becomes 4. If you put an I after the V, it becomes 6. So 10 is X. Where is the 0 in it? How do you write decimal? 3.63. How do you write that? You can't write that. So you see, they are not concerned with numbers, then consequently with arithmetic. Arithmetic is something that basically deals with numbers. They preferred to deal with letters, and therefore they talked about geometry, the Greeks. They talked about geometry. That was their favorite part of mathematics. So the x-axis and the y-axis, all those are those which are somehow lending themselves to uh, to letters rather than numerals. And then algebra. They did have algebra because again, that is the Latin alphabet. And the Greek alphabet also was used. The Greek alphabet, by the way, is very different from the Latin alphabet. What we are using here is the Latin alphabet. The Greek alphabet was very different. The Greek alphabet is what you find in trigonometry. Apart from geometry, the next big contribution that came from the Greeks is trigonometry. Okay, you have the sine theta, the cos theta, okay, all those things. These are all which have been derived from the Greek notion. In fact, alphabet, if you look at that, the English alphabet consists of 26 letters. Please don't say that A is an alphabet. A is not an alphabet. A to Z together are alphabet. Okay, each of them is a letter of the alphabet. So many people say the alphabet A, the alphabet B. No, the alphabet system was started by the Greeks, and it's called alphabet because the first two letters, A, was called alpha. The second was called beta, B-E-T-A. Okay, then you have theta, then you have epsilon, then you have epsilon. I don't know much more than that. So let me not pretend that I know the whole Greek alphabet. But it is from the Greek words or the Greek letters alpha and beta, which are A and B in Roman and in English. These are the reason why we talk about this as the alphabet. So they used mathematics. I'm, as usual, starting from the bottom and going up. Okay, though I did talk about philosophy and Socrates, but I'm going from the bottom and going up. Uh, so their mathematics was geometry, shapes, designs, and trigonometry and algebra. Okay, so these constituted, yeah, Hari has raised his hand. Speak, Mr. Hari, and hurry up because we don't have time. Hari, you've raised your hand. Can you hear me? Hello, is anybody there? Have you just left your things and gone off? Somebody say yes, I
No,
can.
sir, we are here.
Huh?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I am there.
You're there. You're Hari? Who's Hari?
No, sir, I am not Hari.
Hari raised a hand, I said. So it says. And Hari is not speaking. Anyway, so we have come into the last 1 minute. So let me be quick about this. We see that the world was explained by the Greek thinkers mathematically, also, not just mathematically, but by using mathematics as well, apart from rhetoric, dialectic, all these things. Okay, that was the primary method, and that's why I started with maths or mathematics. But you have to remember that you count out or remove the numerals. The numerals that are used today are actually called Indo-Arab numerals. 1, 2, 3, 4, the way we write them. The numerals, those are Indo-Arab numerals. Some people call them Indo-Persian numerals, but they are certainly not Greek or Roman numerals. All right. So when I get into explaining some of the things about Plato, I will invoke mathematics because Plato is somebody who believed in mathematics, and his philosophy, as seen in his seminal work, The Republic, is basically in mathematics. Like I said, I'll be a little slow in the beginning so that you get used to my teaching, and then I'll speed up.